I'd like to get to our first of our panelists. So Simon Inger, Simon has some great information for us from the study, and I want to give him as much time as he needs on this. So please, Simon.
All right, good. All right, we've conquered the technology. It's a while since I've used a PC. Hi, everybody. Right, this is going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour, I will say, of the results we have so far. So a little bit of background, as Bert said, as consultants, we've been undertaking discovery surveys, large-scale discovery surveys for a long time now, 2005, 8, 12, 15, 18 are the dates of those. We had just over 10,000, maybe pushing 11,000 people filled in the survey this time, which is not bad. It's fewer than we'd had in previous ones, as we rely on our publisher supporters to do mass mailings for us, and people have been a little bit more nervous about that with the wonderful onset of GDPR and people opting out of emails. When we originally did the surveys, we were looking at journals. We expanded that into books, and now we've just started to look at multimedia discovery too. Our survey compares discovery options by subject, sector, and geography. It also doesn't just look at discovery, it also looks at things like common website features, content delivery options, and we have some juicy information about Sci-Hub, following on from Andy and others' discussions yesterday. And we're busy writing up the full report, which will be issued as an OA report again last time. I think it was downloaded about 30,000 times. The last one we published, so that will be with us very soon. In terms of demographics, we had a very nice split. North America about a third, Europe about a third, rest of the world the other third, Asia being 20%. And I put that little map up because we did get one person from the French Southern Territories to fill in. So we did have one person in Antarctica technically fill in this survey. Still counts as 0%, but I was very happy to see them crop up. They were there last time too, 3 years ago. They've been waiting a long time. Okay, so one of the main things we do is obviously we ask people about where they start their search when they're looking for content in a specific subject. Where do you start your search? And the important thing to note about this chart before I go into the detail of it is what we're asking is not how often do you do something, but how do you rate the importance of each starting point. So that doesn't necessarily correlate with usage, but it tries to measure how much people value different resources. And so I've tried to just pull out some highlights. Basically, for each of these peaks here, each of these sets of data, they are running from 2005 to 2018 in each cluster of 5 there. So you get to see the trend over time for each of these elements. And the one at the top, the biggest peak, which is my leftmost arrow there, is still, after all these years, abstracting and indexing databases. And which is, you know, I know obviously we've got very powerful ANIs like PubMed out there and Web of Science and so on that are still evidently very highly valued. My rightmost peak over there is an academic search engine, so Google Scholar and the like, and it just shows how long we've been running this survey because we've only been asking them about that for the last 10 years. I couldn't really ask them before that because nobody really knew much about it. So the Google Scholar peak, that second arrow on the right there, is pretty big, but not as big as abstracting and indexing databases. The other one I've highlighted at the moment is a community website such as Mendeley, ResearchGate, and others, which is, you can see they're growing. That's the fourth set of columns there, growing nicely over time. The other one, which is we ask people essentially about their browse mode behavior. Where do they start if they are just looking for the latest issues in their favorite journals? And we've never really been able to explain this upward trend each year of the ANI database. It always seems like a perverse place to start for me, but it seemed perverse every time it's gone up, every time we've ever surveyed it, and it keeps going up. People are, the one thing we see consistently falling is following journal alerts. That's that third yellow arrow from the left. Journal's homepage has also fallen away. Academic search engines have grown. But I guess the other interesting one, again, is that people are using the likes of ResearchGate, Facebook, Twitter, Mendeley, for looking at the recent articles from their favorite journals, or as they report it. I mean, I know from looking at the notes and comments that individuals have posted that people just don't bookmark things. They'd rather just go and search for the title every time, wherever they do that as well. So another thing that we tested, as I mentioned earlier, is some of the website features. And I've just done an explosion out there on the right of part of that chart. So Bert's always very happy to see this because he sees that related articles and related content searching are the only things that have held up on a publisher website. Searching, which is that third block down, you can see just falling away. People don't want to search on publisher websites. Table of contents alerting, which is the last block there, falling away even faster. People don't really do that so much anymore. But related articles and related content searching is the one feature that we see holding up strongly year on year. So, again, the great thing about having so much data to play with is we can start looking at different behaviors in different parts of the world. So what we've looked at here is when we've asked the question about if you use search engines to find journal articles, how often do you use each of the following? And this is just our chart from China. So you can see 2012 is in the blue and the 2018 is in the yellow. So Google dropping away rapidly in China, Google Scholar dropping away slightly, the next block there in from the left, and Baidu as a search engine growing continuously on the far right. And I know people say, yes, with China you can't get to Google, can you at all? There are plenty of researchers in China who use Google through proxies and other things in other countries that they manage to bypass it. I know quite a few such scientists myself that do exactly that. So then this gets very interesting, I think. It's an area that causes much controversy. We also ask what proportion of the journal articles that you read do you access from each of the following resources? And the block on the left there represents the publisher website, the journal website, the full text aggregation or journal collection. In other words, something you paid for. And that's only running between 35 and 40% of the total time, according to people filling in this. You've got the third block in there, which is a free subject repository. I should have said, sorry, these variations here are by broad subject areas. So the blue peaks are scientific technical engineering, the green peak is medical, and humanities social sciences, the yellow peak here. So you can see the subject repository bears that out. You know, there's obviously more people using PubMed Central, so that peak is larger. There are fewer such subject repositories in humanities, social sciences, and so on. Institutional repository use is evidently being reported as quite high in humanities, social sciences. And I've got Sci-Hub for the first time in there, in this chart, to see what's going on. And we're seeing from this that you're getting about 5%, this is across the sum of all of the respondents, 5% of the time people in scientific technical engineering are saying they're getting their content from Sci-Hub. So according to our survey and what people are saying, about 1 in 20 articles are being downloaded from there instead of anywhere else. But obviously if you add up all of these free resources, which is everything other than the first column, you're getting well over 50%, over 60% of access is from some free incarnation or non-subscribed incarnation of the content. We've done the same plot here, but now plotted out by the income of the country of the respondent. So the blue is the highest income countries and the grey is the lowest income countries. And then you see that the Sci-Hub block there, which is that second block, ranges from about 4% in high income, rising to about 12 or 13% in lower income countries for their downloads. As I say, you know, this is what 3,000 or 4,000 people are telling us in those particular areas. And obviously the resultant drop in the publisher website usage as you go from richer to poorer at the same time. And just re-emphasizing that, if you just plot that same thing, variations by country income just within scientific technical engineering, you see those peaks are even bigger. They're about 13% for Sci-Hub at the bottom there, 5% even in high income countries. So it rises. Okay, so what else we got here? When you need to, this is the general one, doing search for articles in a specific subject area. Where on the web do you start that search? Again, split out by scientific, technical and engineering, medical and humanities, social sciences. So of interest here, look, the block on the far left there is the bibliographic database, abstracting and indexing database. So medicine is the highest, yes, PubMed. Scientific technical engineering is also very high, fair enough. Humanities social science, significantly lower. We all know that libraries have been cancelling humanities ANIs for a long while, one way or another. And the next block along is about how people value library web pages instead. And lo and behold, in the absence of ANIs, they use library web pages instead to access to find their content in humanities social sciences. So the trend is almost completely reverse. And also, perhaps not surprisingly, medical and humanities social sciences are biggest in journal aggregations. Across all of those, though, are on the right-hand side, you've got an ever-constant Google Scholar, that second block peaks from the right, doing its job as well. So you do get some significant variations there. And just one other sneak peek at this stage, one of the results that we've got, which we asked about video. And where do you start your search if you're looking for video in a space? And this is obviously going to be expanded upon greatly in the report that we put out. It is interesting. Somebody told me just before Christmas that there are now more searches on YouTube than on Google, not just for video at all, because people are spending so much time finding video content and for entertainment. But when people are searching the general video platform more than the general web search engine when they're in video mode, which is not surprising given other data points that are out there. But it just goes to show that if you're into video, that people are used to searching in the video platform itself. And some of the interesting variations there by the different disciplines. Again, the blue is the engineering, scientific, technical engineering. Medical is the green, and yellow is humanities, social science. So there are very different setups there for different subject areas of what people's current behavior is. So that's our first data point we've ever had on video. It'd be interesting to try it again in a few years' time. Just before I do sort of summarize, I do appreciate that doing a survey like this gets harder every time as well. And as we start to invent new quote-unquote search engines, perhaps powered by machine learning, we have an additional problem of understanding how people classify that in their own minds. So any future surveys get more complicated as to how we describe it. So we are conscious, we have to be ever more careful in the language we use in the survey to get people to define what it is they're seeing. So finally, just a few summary headlines so far. There's going to be a ton more in the report that we publish in the next couple of weeks. So the Sci-Hub news, everybody wanted to know. So it's up to 15% of content in some countries, around 5% even in the high-income countries from what people are telling us they do. Certainly library technology in terms of discovery is becoming the most important player in humanities, social sciences. I don't think it particular surprises there. Abstract and indexing databases are definitely holding their ground versus Google Scholar and STM, in STM. In China, Baidu has overtaken Google. Google Scholar is still most important, according to in the Chinese market. So it's very interesting how all these variations work around the world. We get very, very different answers from different sectors as well. But maybe we'll get some questions on that later. I won't take up any more of your time, so other people have got a chance to dive in and say their stuff, and hopefully I didn't overrun too much.